Hello everyone, welcome. Hope everyone's having a good night tonight. I do apologize, this stream is technically not like probably should have been a day earlier, realistically, just to cover this on the Monday after Rosemont. But I figured, you know what, I needed just a day to myself just to recoup. The drive was a good few hours. Plus I had family over who likes to come over during the BCS. So yeah. But anyways, I hope everyone's doing well tonight. Let me swap over real fast. There we go. Yeah, hope everyone's doing good. Let me get some music going for you guys. You'll have to tell me if it's okay or not. There we go. But yeah, we're back from Rosemont, where I played in the BCS for both Standard and Premium this event. My record was not great. I ended up going 0-3 day one, including free fight. I went 2-4, so really not good on my end. And then in Premium, I did a bit better. I would say I went 3-3, actually going up until the 6th round. I dropped the last round just because, you know, obviously like X3s had 0 chance to top. You needed X2 or better to have a chance. And then we'll talk about the event as well. Event was actually smaller this year. It was actually a good bit smaller too. Where last year we had like almost 500 people for Standard. We were only a little bit over 300. The Premium didn't have as big of a decline this time. Like it was roughly a 100-person drop in between the years. We'll kind of talk about. I know. Hold on. I actually do have a thing up for this on my other screen. There we go. Like Kai made a thread about it where it's like, hey, Rosemont numbers were low. I've heard a few people say that there was a one-piece event in Peoria. I also know there's like a bit of like, hey, the game's not doing super great right now in the West, because I remember the last live letter, the last product announcement stuff that we had, that wasn't really that great. And I don't know, I feel like it's just kind of interesting. Obviously, I know there's also the political climate in Illinois right now not being great. If you follow the news, you've probably heard a good bit about it. I'm not gonna get into it on a political scale, but I'm gonna say that's also probably it. Like, at least part of it for some people. And then also the fact that like, we just had such a turnaround from... what person did it? Yeah, because it was such a turnaround from BSF, basically. Like, these were like basically just back on. We just finished up the Spring Fest, or Summer Fest, I guess, and then we're immediately heading to the Championship Series. So I feel like it was kind of a scheduling issue is what turned a lot of people off from it, but I did think the event was pretty well run still. Yeah, I ended up playing, like I said, in both events. In Standard, I played Heart Luru. Premium, I played Victor. I'll go over both lists just to kind of talk about it. But there is, I mean, I'll talk about, I guess, Standard first, because that's what most people are going to probably be here for, and I technically have less. Forgive me, that was Nick responding to a message I gave him shit for. But anyways, Heart Luru. So I played the very basic, probably like the most cookie cutter list. There's really not as much to talk about. We're probably gonna get through Standard very quickly in this part of the discussion. But Heart Luru ride deck. Obviously, you really can't vary from this. It gets you into your orders. It's the most consistent thing. It's the only like good ride line for this deck. And then this card is just dumb if you actually get to resolve the multiple orders. And then energies of your choice. I don't like using the cards. I prefer the shoots and ladders. To quickly go through the Heart Luru core, I'm not going to explain this in the sense that I'm sure people have seen Heart Luru at least a decent bit by this point. But I will say I chose to max the toy count, and by that I mean I maxed everything. I don't agree with the people that even like to play the 3-block horse. I don't get how you don't whiff on this card. I whiffed on this so often for toy searches. It was absurd. I actually had... Playlist. There we go. Okay, I don't even know I could... Whatever. It's fine. Actually, you know what? It's fine. Anyways, yeah, so I felt that, like, I wanted to see max consistency. I felt also that Block Horse is a really good card, just because it's one of the very few 10k shields in the format. And I feel like if you have access to a 10k shield, that helps a lot, because it's either 15s or 5s, basically. So having a 10k I felt was really good, but again, I felt that the Sunnet was fine. I do also kind of agree that War Horse isn't as good because Virgilla, this card getting stomped by Virgilla, but toy lineup was very, very basic. It's kind of the other stuff, I guess, that we talked about. Oh, and I guess we talked about the 4 PGs. The 3 Arlem and Elementaria. I don't have the Pale Moon one, so I can aesthetically fit the rest of the deck. And then I guess we get into the controversial bits. So, I liked Avarice Rester at 3, and I also played the 1 Philia. I know there is a constant debate between which of these two is better. And I tried to look at this from the standpoint of not just winning the game, but winning the event or topping the event. I think Philia is a better high roll card, but I think that Avarice Rester is a more consistent card. Basically, because this deck does always want to go second, you in theory will always see 3 of the orders, but then it's just a matter of getting to the 4th order, because there's such a big difference between 3 orders and 4 orders, that that's an extra attack, that's extra pressure, that's an extra win con just out the gate. And it's like also a loss of power. So I figured hands. It is a hand stream. We're doing hand cam today. We're talking about cards. Hello, Har. Yeah. I did like this ratio. I really wouldn't. I was originally testing 4 copies of Philia over the 3 Avarice Rester. Then I went to Avarice Rester for further testing, and I was like, okay, Avarice Rester does feel consistently better, even if I feel like the ceiling is worse. But I never felt that I wanted the 4th Rester. So I felt that this ratio was really good. Also, I like this ratio because I played the Dark States AC unit, which this card was really good. I consistently was able to just bring back out the Philia, make this column on my right column. I miss Giant Fluffy a lot for some reason. Giant Fluffy was like the one toy that never wanted to show up in the deck. So, but I would see the Philia opening hand like almost every game for some reason. So just being able to Philia twice helped out a lot. And then as for the rest of my picks, Twin Cast, this is technically attack, but most people obviously play it to a point that it is considered a staple. And then I also played just the 1 Purple Cat. I thought about playing 2, but I didn't feel like I needed the 2nd Purple Cat. It's good, but I don't feel like you realistically need or want to resolve the 2nd. It's great if you see it though, and obviously the point of it is of playing 2 is usually to see it. You're not really trying to resolve 2, especially because if you do have to go into Nut Crumbs, banish or get rid of the titty, you can no longer resolve 2. And I really did not want cards that would just be dead, especially when I felt like I was playing multiple Avarice Rester, where usually after resolving 1 Rester, the other 2 are dead. Best case is to actually discard Rester for Rester, unless you have like a toy to pick back up. But those were my 7 slots, I guess, for my attacks. I did consider Tizcar. However, a point that was brought up to me about Tizcar that I ended up agreeing with, and also why another reason I went down on Philia count, was that by playing the 1 Philia and no Tizcar... Well, first off, with Tizcar, you can only resolve it if you go second, because that gets you 3 extra energy, as you'll have 9 energy in total to work with, because you have 3 for Heart Liru, 3 for this, 3 for Tizcar, that's exact. But if you go first in any of your games, you automatically cannot resolve either Tiz cart or the AC in it, and there is no way to play around that. So for that reason, I like this ratio a lot, and I felt this is just really good. Twin cast, and again, it's a 10k shield. This is a really big shield if you need to, but usually you want to use it for the counter charge if you can, because if you can draw off the Flavi, it's really good. It also really helps you play around counterplay, because one thing that I ended up doing in the mirror, because I will say I played one mirror match, was my opponent had a board state, and I'm just kind of making this up with the exact card, where they technically locked themselves out of it because they used one CB on the Blavi on their grade 2 turn. So because of that, they weren't able to go in, they wouldn't have been able to go into Heart Luru. Heart Luru call the Nut Crumbs. Nut Crumbs will then get the search, and they would be able to get the attacks off. However, my opponent was just better and drew 2 orders. So, you know, me trying to counterplay my opponent mid-tournament did not work. But you know, that's just kind of standard, I guess. So that does it for my, I guess, my weird slots. Triggers are pretty basic. One OT. We played the red one just because I feel like it's the best one, generally speaking, in really aggro decks. I really can't say I want much else aside from that. 8 crit. I didn't play the Dark States crit. You don't really get anything out of the extra 2k. Plus, if you're desperate enough to where it's like you have to like have a grade 1 with a trigger boot swinging, it still hits 13, and that's sometimes important. I never ran into that situation today, but it is generally true. You don't get much, if anything, out of the extra soul. 2 copies of the front. Or 3 copies of the front, excuse me. And then I played 2 of the Restand heal, and then 2 vanilla heal. And that was my, my trigger lineup. I didn't really feel like I needed much else from this. This was actually really good. I was a little hesitant to play this at first initially, just because I was like, people at these events tend to play a lot of rogue, so if you don't run into meta, this is just worse than a regular heal trigger, but it was really good. I only played meta over the course of the weekend over the minus, I guess, free fight, but we'll talk about that. Yeah, like I said, my record for day 1 was terrible. I went 0-3 drop, including free fight. I went 2-4. So let's go ahead and talk about those matchups. I unfortunately do not remember one of my free fight matchups, but to start off with, there was my round 1 of the day, which was against the world's competitor. So that was really cool. I fell way over my head as soon as I saw that, which realistically, I kind of forgot the lesson of don't care about who your opponent is, just play the game like you normally would. But I played against Virgilla. I won the die roll, but I lost the match, and obviously, again, I kind of lose all these matches. I made some misplays, where, I don't know why I didn't realize this in all my testing. I did not realize that Nut Crumbs can only resolve if you go second, for some reason, or your opponent's already on grade 3. I don't know why I didn't know that, and then I just lost it. To be fair, it didn't matter. I was, like, just so far behind Virgilla anyways. And that was what taught me, hey, you want to go second Heart Luru. Like, I kind of knew you wanted to already just because of Heart Luru's 3 order skill, but I didn't know that because of also Nut Crumbs. Like, I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. I even flipped offensive OT, but he had double PG for it, so I was like, well, he just kind of had it, so there really wasn't anything I could do, in which case. Round 2, I played against Virgilla again. And then won the die roll, lost the match. Just didn't hit enough toys off my searches, so that was kind of unfortunate. And then round 3 was the mirror. I lost the die roll, and I lost the match. I went second that time. And again, I had the really cool damage denial play where I basically denied him either the extra attack or the search, but he just hard drew 2 of the orders. Not even like Avarice Rest or anything, like he didn't resolve Philia, he just hard drew them. And he flipped offensive OT, and I was like, alright, I guess I'm just not meant to play this game. So, I went 0-3 drop, and I was just immediately out of the tournament. And then I went to free fight. I don't remember what one of my rounds was for free fight, unfortunately. But I did play against Impaldio, which that was actually a fun game, and it was really interesting having to play against a deck that like had that kind of gimmick where sequentially it just gets harder to hit them. That game actually went on for a little bit, but I did squeak out the win. And then Virgilla, I just blew up again the last round. I was like, okay, Virgilla's just gonna keep ruining this event. And I think Virgilla also did win Standard at Rosemont, if I'm not mistaken. I do think overall that, like, it's pretty obvious Virgilla is probably one of the best decks in the format. I know, like, it's between Virgilla or Bob Sagara. I think once Bob gets hit, Bob goes from, like, it gets hit for a third time, I think. We go from it being best deck of the format to, like, one of the top decks of the format. I understand why people are like, oh, Heart Luru is probably at that point second best. I think Virgilla is just such a rough matchup. I don't know. I feel like the format kind of stinks in the sense where it's like, it's all based around whoever sees pieces, and the fact that maybe it was just my atrocious luck, but I was whiffing toys like mad. I kept like, and I just kept blowing up before I even had a chance to play the fourth order. Never mind not even seeing it. But I just, like, I don't think I had a game realistically where I could have played my fourth order. And like, well, I don't think I had a game where I lived long enough to play a fourth order. It was just, like, I kept blowing up. I did only lose the mirror because of the OT, realistically, despite the fact that he had the 4 orders, but I don't know. Standard feels a little rough at the moment. I feel like if you're not playing one of the big 4 between Virgilla, Buff Sagara, Heart Luru, or Minerva, even though I think Minerva is kind of fake anyways, at least from what I've conversed with people about, I do not like this format. I feel like it's just, this format does not feel super skill rewarding. Maybe the Virgilla Mirror feels better. I can't really comment. I did not test that deck at all. I really didn't focus as much on standard. A lot of my time was like me trying to learn my deck, which, granted, when your cards tell you what circles they go on and what they do, I felt it was very easy to learn this deck. I felt comfortable with the deck, realistically, minus, I guess, the whole Headcrumbs play. Coaster Shark was also super cool. I actually love this card. This card's so funny in the Virgilla matchup, where it's like if they call 2 of the grade 2 guy that has like a 15k shield, you just swing like 15 or 25, and then it just like blows up the front row. It's real. I think this card is really good. I actually really like Coaster Shark a lot. I wish more decks kinda had a card like Coaster Shark, where it's like it can just swing at sides. I think this card's design is actually probably one of my favorites in the deck. But I'm kind of off this deck, I think. I don't see myself attending any more BCS events for the rest of the season, realistically. Maybe something like later next year, but I kind of doubt it just because of finances and the fact that I want to travel a bit next year. So for that reason, I'm probably going to be selling this after a trip next week. So if you're looking for a Heart Luru core, I'll probably be keeping the Avarice Wrestlers because I kind of want to play Odium, but I'll be offering like this with a bunch of the stuff Fang Guardians. But yeah, I think this deck was fun for what it was. Obviously, it just wasn't my weekend. As for other choices, there really wasn't a lot I considered. Otherwise, yeah, like, literally it was the 4th Avarice Wrestler, if I wanted to go back to other Philias, or if I wanted a last-minute swap to the other 2 heals, which I don't regret the list. I feel that what I played was generally correct. Again, it was just, I think, unfortunate circumstance that I could not do well. And obviously, I probably could have learned my deck a little bit better. Maybe I should have practiced more for Virgilla and knew what I was doing, but you know, it is what it is. Yeah. Not a big fan of Standard right now. I don't see myself continuing to play the format, at least immediately. I have, like, I'll probably just play, like, fun decks like Thegger, or maybe if I, like, want to try air quotes, but I want to play something more enjoyable, I'll play Odium. I'm excited for the Odium support that comes out later this month, but anyways, that's enough of that. On to, I guess, the format I can talk a bit more about, and that is Victor. So I thought, so my process behind picking Victor was kind of not exactly like the most thought out. Like for actually I should just move this over here so it's out of the way. Excuse me. So my thought process behind picking Victor was relatively simple. I felt that between the fact that we were, like, as Fenrir Loop and Shout Loop are quote-unquote the best decks in the format right now. Well, Fenrir Loop / Fenrir OTK, I'm kind of saying that more as the OTK deck. I felt that it was smarter, in my case, to... And plus, the other... Well, let me finish my thought on time, Jesus. I felt that with those two decks being the best decks, I needed something that could go aggressive very early, force cards out from my opponents so they're less likely to be able to play, while simultaneously, because I am not wanting to be a doomer, but because it feels like Bushy just doesn't want to continue to support premium with them axing events generally, and I have the fear of them just saying, nope, we're done with premium, I wanted at least one more hurrah with the deck. So I felt that playing my favorite clan, realistically, this is going to be the best shot with it. And the deck did really well. I know the 3-3 sounds like an iffy record, but we'll talk about that. But I overall felt this list was very well crafted. Albert and I sat down for a little bit. Like, I sent a rough draft to Albert, and Albert's like, this draft looks really good. I don't, like, we talked about, like, even, like, the little text and such, and he was just like, this list is fine. I really just solitaired it. I didn't have time to playtest. I technically playtested more with standard. Playtesting against, like, Estashion, Leonor, Artsaria, like, a few other random standard decks, but mostly just so I can learn my own deck. But this is a deck I just solitaired, and solitairing it felt very comfortable because this is a deck I know at the back of my hand. And we'll talk about it. So, for the list, I technically played something I, like, in a few aspects, like, similar to what I've played in the past, but some things were different. We'll talk about it. So, I played a 3-1 split of Extreme Valor Victor. Realistically, I never got to use this, and this is probably one of the worst cards on my deck. There were a couple times where I almost had to write it, and then I wouldn't have been able to Vic 10 pop off, which I really need to in a couple games. So in the future, I would consider going this, but it never actually came up. But the logic behind it is that if you get a point where you can rewrite into this one, you just get a free +2. And if you have to write it going first, it's also, like, not bad, because it still gets you the extra Excel circle. It still gets you the extra, like, body. Like I said, it's a +2. You can triple drive, which isn't bad, but it was generally just worse. I think it's worse than regular Extreme, so maybe I would consider it. But again, there were a couple points where I was like, oh, I would love to go into this, but it wasn't correct, especially because the ride I wanted to transition into was the Zubat Battler Victor, which this card was so good. Oh my god. I technically arguably misplayed in my Narukami matchup by going into this instead of this just immediately. But I was going first, and I'll talk about that more in the matchups, but I feel that Zubat's really good. I think that this card's longevity is better than this one. This just is a card that can keep you in the game. It still wins you the game, like, all you lose out on is a little bit of power, but I did not think that power realistically mattered with how much pressure you can do. So that was the Victor lineup, and then for the other threes, a tech that I did play was Light Ray Monster Revirus. The logic behind this is that because I felt that Naru would be decently popular, and I am saying decently just because Rosemont tends to like a bit of Naru. Ty Smith, who was my round 1 opponent, so I played a second Worlds competitor. What I felt like was probably going to be showing up, I just kind of feared playing against him again. I played against him in the past, but I was like, hey, let's pack an extra resist card. Didn't draw it. I didn't see this card all weekend. But the idea was there that basically it's similar to like what DP does, where it's like, hey, they can't pick this. So, and then that's also why we played Angel Ladder. Angel Ladder also worst case basis, it just goes into Soul, draws a card, gives you 9 card power. We like Soul in this deck. The Soul's deck is very Soul heavy, to a point where it's like, I actually don't think it's that CB heavy. You actually don't have a ton of cards that counterblast in this deck. Or at least a lot of cards that have multiple counterblasts, so I technically also played a little bit of a higher grade 3 ratio, where I played the 7 and then the 3 and the extra 3 heal triggers, which I'll talk about this 3-1 split that I did, but there was a logic behind that. Also, 3s I think are actually really good right now, because 3s help you stop Shout Loop. Because the idea is that if you hit 3s on the bottom of your deck, when they reveal for Shout, if you reveal the 3, whatever they get has to go into Soul, so they don't get the draw. So they lose resources to keep the loop going. So if your deck can play more 3s, I think that's actually very good for your deck. Yeah, that was it for the actual non-trigger grade 3s. For the 2s, I played 4 Gulsachi. I kind of almost wanted to play 3 of this, but I felt that because, again, I was afraid of decks, just stuff like Naru kind of messing me up. I was like, you know what, it's still a 16 beater, and it's still one of the few cards that can hit a number solo. Or still hit a Forest Vanguard, I should say, solo. So I did play that. Force Spiral Breaker. A lot of the logic behind playing Force Spiral Breaker, because I know people will usually say go 4-3 or 4-3, one of the two. I went 4-4 just because a lot of my logic was, let's not have to CB in this deck as much as possible. And this is one of the other ways that you can restain without having to CB. Because so far, if you've paid attention, you have your Vanguard, whichever one of these two you're on, that's a CB, and then this is a CB, and that's all we've done CB'd so far. And there's really, I don't even think there's another card in this entire main deck that's CBs. Yeah, there's not a single other card in the entire main deck that's CBs. So, that was it. Honolly was so much less of a factor for me, and I also figured that a lot of people were going to be on Honolly. And then the other card that'll cut a lot of people off guard, but probably one of my favorite cards of the weekend, was Zeman Balmer. So, people do not know what this card does. This card's really cool. So, this card basically has one effect that changes conditions depending on the opponent. So, if your opponent has a G-Zone, which, spoilers, everyone does in Premium, unlike in Standard, it gets 5k power, 5k shield. So, it is a 15k beater, 10k shield. However, if your opponent has a face-up card in their G-Zone, it then becomes a 20k beater, 15k shield. I played this over cards like Jack. This was my big beater of the deck. And in Excel Circle, this just hit 25. And my opponent was like, what do you mean you're hitting a big number without doing anything? It's also very good defensively. The opponent can't easily swing into it, unlike Jack, because again, it sits on 20k base during their turn. So this card was actually very good. If they don't know if you have this in your hand, so that also makes it very good defensively. And then the other beater that was a resource were my 2 copies of Dual Flare. I did like this tech, admittedly, from Stephen Lee a few years back. I thought this card was very good. Basically, for people who don't know what Dual Flare does, if you have no front row versus rear guards, you get plus 3k for every grade of your opponent's Vanguard. So if they're on grade 2, you get plus 6k. So it hits 15 on its own. So it basically forces out a 10k shield no matter what in early game. And then it has the other skill at the end of the battle attacks. You can put it into Soul, give your Vanguard 5k, and if you have no face-up damage, kind of charge 1. Usually, I wouldn't, for me giving the power to my Vanguard wouldn't matter. I usually would swing with this about last anyways. Just get rid of it, counter charge. It was really good. I liked it. I kind of wanted to play 3, or a way to recycle it, which I'll talk about later when I talk about some of the other cards I considered. But I did not feel like I had the space, and that's just kind of the truth. Space ended up becoming really tight in this list. But that was the 2 lineup, and I was very happy with this 2 lineup. I felt like a lot of the cards did very well. As for the 1s, for Rashid, I do typically prefer this Rashid over the V-Era one, just because I like the ability to grab whatever I want out of my deck. In terms of the victors, it's also if you're in a really bad spot, telling not a bad attacker, which, you know, being a 12k hitter on an Excel Circle is okay. It was fine also to call as a booster for either, what's their names? Spiral Breaker or my Vanguard if I needed to, because it still let my Vanguard hit 33 on stride. So it wasn't bad there. 3 guns then. I wish I could talk about this card, but I never drew it. I even bumped it up from my usual 2 to 3 just to see it a little bit more. But again, I never saw it. So, but the idea is there. Resist, again, we tried to play a little bit more Denari. We wanted to hit big numbers. This card hits insane numbers. It's technically the actual biggest attacker in the deck, if we're counting all the power boosts and all that. But it doesn't do anything on its own, which is also kind of a problem. I try to maximize on cards that either could do something on their own, unless the card was so good that it contributed like to something else in like a better way. And this card was like, hey, it's still a resist unit, or it gives everything resist. It's basically a 4th Angel Ladder, or it's 3 more copies of Angel Ladder, I guess is the better way to put it. But it's on a rear guard instead, which is really good. Tukumbarugan. Again, very similar to the Spiral Breaker mentality. I saw this a lot. This is actually a really good card. Swinging for 18 on an Excel 2 was really good. Just draws cards. They're not draws cards. Just swings over and over again. Telling one of the other, like, solo bigger beaters. And then the one of Riser Custom. This card was technically here for one specific reason. Well, 2 specific reasons, I guess. One, it's really good if you go early. It lets you hit Shout Loop on first swing without giving you a drive check, which is actually important in that matchup. The less drives you give yourself in Shout Loop is technically a good thing. So you can just swing. And then the other factor, which technically is in the opposite vein for other matchups, is that because it is a restanding rear guard that acts as a booster still, so like if you restand a Spiral Breaker column or a Kosachi column, it's 2 drives for Bustard, so that was really good. And then 2 Hard Puncher. This card was really good. I adore this card. That's just kind of it. I basically just use it for G-guarding more. I never use the guarding effect, but it was good. Just kind of, you can see what you need into, which technically also G-guarding in this deck is really cool because it draw you more cards. And then the last one I played was Elementaria. I wish I was cool enough to have a Worlds one, but I'm not. But yeah, that was the grade 1 lineup, and then I technically was bad, and I played Blau Junger as my starter. I wanted to just use my SP. It probably should have been White Tiger. Maybe people think that you're playing Shout Loop, maybe people think that they're playing differently. But, you know, I wanted to rock this one more time. And I got a few compliments on having the SP, which I was like, you know what, that's kind of what I want. As for the triggers, this is definitely not the most, well, it's decently thought out, I'd say. 1 Brant Gate OT, I know some people might say, oh, it might be worth playing purple. I thought about it, but it really wasn't like a long-term thought. I kind of had the thought afterwards of also considering the light OT, just to like, if I'm in the spot where I check it, just wiping my opponent's board and like potentially drawing extra cards is really good. A guard break can also be really good, but I didn't resolve this all day. I never saw it. I never got OT'd either in day 2, which was really nice, admittedly. And then 1 Red Lightning, which this I know is kind of a weird pick. Basically, I wanted a main phase Soul Charge that also could kind of charge, and this is just like the card that did it. It didn't eat into the main deck space realistically because it's the utility in a trigger. And for the concession of the Red Lightning, I only played 3 of the Stride Crit, and then 4 copies of Break Pass. This is really good. Just again, you kind of have some soul issues where you just need to get as much soul as you can because we're trying to avoid playing into Hanali as much as we can. The deck, in theory, can just play around Hanali very well because you don't CB yourself out a lot. And then I also played 3 draws, and then a 3-1 split on heal triggers. Kind of going back to what I said about the grade 3s, if you can show your opponent grade 3s off the shout, you deny them the ability to get cards. However, I still wanted the option to be able to countercharge soul charge depending. So I did play the 1 Arago Siren, or Arago, the Blau heal. Jeez, I can talk. Yeah, I felt this card was also super good. I wish I drew it more. And every time I saw it, I didn't really have a second heal to bind and get a resource with, but it'd be like that sometimes. So arguably, I could have played 2-2. I didn't see any Fenrir OTK or Shout Loop throughout the day. I think a lot of people just right now aren't on that deck. But that's basically it. That's for the main deck. I will go over cards I considered at one point or another, but I do think that's probably best with the G-Zone, because even the G-Zone had a couple swaps and considerations. As for the G-Zone itself, 2 Vic 10, different from my usual 3, but I played basically the same G-Zone I more or less have, minus I guess like 1 card swap, but I felt like the 2 Vic 10 was really good, and I never missed the 3rd actually. There was not really a point where I was like, oh, I need a 3rd Vic 10, and almost everything in my G-Zone came up. I think, like, aside from well, yeah, technically 3 cards. 1 is Harmonix, but we obviously put the Harmonix. 2 Victo Plasma. Oh, I love this card. I think just having a I am in a bad spot button. This is my get out of jail card potentially. It can just end games. I did drop this in round 1, and my opponent was like, "What does this do?" And that actually put him in a really bad position because I had a card that did something on its own, which again, kind of talk about it. Like I couldn't even like establish a fake board. I just had to establish, or I couldn't establish even like a fake board. I just kind of had to go in with it, and this forced him into a bad spot. Because G guarding Victoplasma doesn't do a whole lot, especially when like it's a 2-standing rear guard. And then 1 Bustard. Never missed the 2nd, and I also never killed anybody on this. I was whiffing a lot of blanks, but at the same time, even whiffing those blanks was fine because it got me enough cards to live, it got me pieces, and then I just killed them the next turn. And then as the bulk, I never went into it. Merciless, I went into it once in a very funny situation against Neon Nectar, but I never went into it otherwise. It just kind of sat there. But it was very good in the situation that it came up, and there wasn't another card that could have done what this card did, and I'll talk about that. Tri-Brute, this is the card I cut for the 3rd Vic 10. I saw a bunch of people like were on Tri-Brute during Springfest, and I was like, let me... And like, it was kind of weird, because all it really does directly is hit Hanali, but at the same time, I only got Hanali once, and it was a main phase Hanali, not even like for the skill, they just called it and left it. So I was like, oh... Well, I don't have a better play anyway, so I just went to Tri-Brute, swung a rear guard, swung Van, counterblasted 2, killed the Hanali. Which, technically, the Hanali baited the CB anyways, but he got rid of it, so... It still worked out, and I didn't have to worry about it for subsequent turns. Dreiger, I never went into it. Technically, I went into it, air quotes, but it didn't matter. I just strode just to get an on-attack swing skill from Zubat, but we'll talk about that, but it didn't matter. I think I also misplayed. And then 1 Harmonix Messiah. I went 2nd, I think, a couple times, maybe. And then for G Guardians, I played 1 Gundreed, 1 Stiff Knight, or Stiff Knight, I have no idea how you pronounce this card's name. This card was really good, though. I actually would arguably play 2. Dismal, I never used it, but the option was there. 1 Unior, this card came up a lot. And the 2 Dogon Titan. Another really good card I absolutely love and adore. And that was the G-Zone, in a nutshell. So, to talk about, I guess, some of the other cards I considered before we hop into matchups. There's my limit done. Some of the other cards I considered, and they kind of have like 2 categories of cards, I guess, I can talk about. There were the cards that I initially considered that didn't make the cut, and then the cards that almost made the cut. Start off with Cosmo Lord. I did highly consider going with this package, along with cards like Jack, and then the Scarlet Bird. I did not feel like this package was correct for this format, and it realistically wasn't. It was a little bit too many, like, reliant pieces. I do think this card's really cool. I also played into a lot of 13k bases. Don't hit. Obviously, yes, I know this card gets power, but I felt that this was correct. And again, I didn't want to play into like a very high, like, piece reliant build. Mega Colony, like, while I am aware that it won Rosemont, and I wish I played against Mega Colony, I didn't feel like Mega Colony was good enough in the sense to justify a build like this. Nor did I feel like this build was going to be in particular good against something like Shout Loop or Fenrir OTK. Especially Fenrir OTK. I felt like this build is like super incorrect for Fenrir OTK. I feel like you just want to do as much with as little, especially because you're not drive checking with your Vanguard if you're playing that matchup correctly. Some of the other cards that I considered. Sazanda. I know a lot of people are like, what the fuck, you are not in Sazanda. I kind of, again, it doesn't do anything on its own. like, it requires you to get into the excels, which in some matchups you don't want to do, like Narukami. And, you know, it's very, like, do I have everything else? I felt like if you saw this, you were already winning in a state where it could win you more. But if you didn't have pieces, and that's where the Zeman Bombers came in. I felt that Zeman Bomber was my replacement for Sazanda in this exact format. And Zeman Bomber came through. I will say I really do not regret not playing this. A card that I also wish I could have played was DOS Sledge, but again, very similar situation. It didn't do anything on its own. It was very piece reliant. Also, I felt that in some cases it might be a little bit iffy with the Soul Charge. Plus, I don't like playing builds as much. I like have to focus on one guy, unless like the format doesn't have removal. But I felt like the format was just gonna be a little bit too wide to really like safely consider. Plus, again, like Soul Charging is not good against Shout. Hank, just because it does a very similar thing where it's like, hey, it's a resender without a counterblast cost, just didn't feel the need for it. A Rashid, the V-Era one, again, a consideration. I did think about it, but it just didn't come up. I didn't feel like I needed it as much. I didn't feel like the top 5 check was as good. It probably would have been like better like as the attacker, where I said like because there were a couple times where I just had to call Rashid as like a swinger, but the ability just to like get whatever grade 3 I wanted I felt was more important. Plus it being a stride cost alternative was really good throughout the day. Malayaki, same deal as Sazanda, it doesn't do anything on its own. Baryon was a card I really wanted to play, but I felt the list was just tight, and again I couldn't fit this in, even though I really wanted to. Especially because like I love like this whole like, hey, I can guard, counterblast, draw, and then continue to see what I can dig into. I felt that like this card was super close to making the cut, but I just couldn't. Laptrizer. If you saw my list from Robbie's event a while back, I did reconsider the Riser engine. I didn't feel it was good enough, realistically. Mikani, the grade 3 Mikani, was another card I considered, just kind of going into the standard cards at this point. This card is also in theory good because you can retire Hanali. The problem is I did not play Jarahawk, so I did not play this card, which I will talk about Jarahawk in a little bit, but I also forgot I did not pull the card out. Valtrosa. I did want to play this. I didn't feel like recycling was going to be good enough, and again, space. I wanted to consider recycling cards like Zeman Balmer, the Wolf Flare, Wasachi, but if I really needed to, Rayvirus, but again, it didn't come up, so there was that. Proteed. This is a card I think is really cool. Basically, what this does, for people who don't know what this card is, it is a monster, by the way, that if something gets retired during your opponent's turn, you can bind it as the card they retire. So like if they swing into a guy, you can just Proteed get it back. But I didn't feel like that was realistic enough for this format. I didn't think my sides barely got swung into for context, so this would have just been dead. And then another card I considered, I guess for my last standard format card, was Camera Chan. So this card I think is actually funny. What this card does, for people who don't know, you're really only using it just for the body, but it's a set order that in your order zone you can Soul Blast 1, call it out, and it basically acts similar to Rumble, where it's just like a 5k body with boost. And then at the end of the turn, it goes back into the order zone. I didn't play this ultimately, one, because again, Soul was very tight, and two, this card doesn't have shield. I considered even Pantera for a brief moment to get this, but I was like, there's no other good set order, or no other good orders I felt to grab with it, so it just kind of fell to the wayside. I did briefly consider Energy Girl, but I don't like the stands as much this format. And then G-Zone stuff I considered. The third Vic 10, I talked about this a little bit. I never missed it, but I'm just kind of in the habit of playing 3 Vic 10. I think 3 Vic 10 is good, just not at a point where you can afford to really play it right now. Favorite Champ Victor. I don't like this card. That's just kind of it. I think this card's kind of bad in modern Vanguard nowadays. I feel like if you're in a game state to where you can win with favorite champ, you could win on arguably any other stride. And you can make the argument, well, Victoplasma is two cards in your G-Zone. This is only one, which is true. This card's so much more resource intensive and so much more resource mapping that I feel like it's not worth it to just play it. I never missed it. I haven't missed this card since Galaxy Stargate. I briefly considered it because I was like, well, everyone's playing it. Maybe I'm missing something. But I was just... I never missed it. I never wanted this card in my G-Zone. The best thing it would have done all weekend was realistically been flipped for what is it? For Bustard. And then favorite or winning champ. I considered this. I do think this card's actually kind of cool, but I don't like this and Bustard in the same G zone unless you play like a way more soul generating focus build with Gyrohawks and such. But I didn't feel like that was the play. And again, if your opponent's smart, they can call a body smaller than a Hanali, or just, in theory, they'll just get rid of the Hanali themselves and can flood you for one turn. But I did not feel like this card was correct. And then a second copy of Stiffney. Wanted to play the second, but no room. You don't typically resolve 2 in a game, so that was kind of my only reason for that. So that was all the stuff that in my initial thought process of the deck almost made it. As for the stuff that last minute almost made it, and we'll talk about that. The second Zubat Victor, the reason I was considering the second Zubat was kind of for the fact that I think this card's really good and transitioning into it is the best ride. However, I also did not own this at the time. I was looking around for a late rain monster. But I did manage to get one on day 1, thankfully, and an FR, which I was super looking for, so I played just that. The third Gambarugon, just because I was like, oh, I may not see this card enough. I saw it a lot, so it was really fine, but I did consider it. Gyrohawk. So this is, I know, another card that people are like, what do you mean you didn't play Gyrohawk in World Cards? And let me explain that. So first off, you're not really using your actual columns as much. A lot of your cards are going into your Excel circles, right? But the other thing about this card is that it plays so much worse than the Hanali. This card is really bad in the Hanali. It's extra CB, which I don't like. And the soul in the card is cool, but it's also the fact that it's like... the power... It's only like... If it was more than 2k power, I would have been more likely to consider this, but I did not feel that it was good enough in the sense to consider playing the Gyrohawks. Like, I feel like it felt like kind of an issue where I learned back in Houston the last time I played that PCS. It's not that it's bad, but it plays worse into particular formats. And again, I felt like with Fenrir OTK and like the fact that they will just try and Hanali you for one turn. If you have this card, this does nothing. So I felt this card was just kind of weak, and I never really missed it. And again, kind of with the whole, it needs another card to do something good. Which, granted, that card can be any card. It's really good with Glosachi, but I just wanted to avoid playing into stuff as much as I could. Then obviously White Tiger, you play this to make them think that you're playing Shoutloop. Technically, you can also, apparently a lot of people thought that Beast Deity was more of a real deck. So I kept hearing people be like, oh, well, if you're playing White Tiger, it could be one of 3 decks between Victor, Shout, or Beast Deity. And I'm like, I don't know who's really playing Beast Deity that much in 2025, but sure, go at it, King. The fourth Keaton Peacon, I just considered it. The second Red Lightning, similar deal. I considered it, but I liked the 3-1 split that I went between these two. And then the second copy of the Grade Zero Heal. At times, it would have been cool to see it, but I never actively missed it. But yeah, that was technically everything I considered for Rosemont. Between decks, card choices, all that. And then we'll go into the matchups, I guess, for what I played. And let's see here. I did write all this down. I just had to get my phone out real quick. So for round 1, I played against Ty Smith on Narukami. If you're on Vanguardians, I'm sure you know who Ty Smith is. a Worlds competitor. Technically going back to Worlds this year. Congratulations, by the way. He was my round 1. We played against each other back in Team League. But I won the dice roll, lost the match. He crit me early. I couldn't draw pieces. He kept seeing what he needed to. His hand was just too big for me to break. I just second straight Victim Plasma just because I was like beating him with a Rashid and I was just not drawing like anything. I couldn't like see any resist pieces. I couldn't like see like my draw triggers and like that. I was playing from behind basically ever since like he crit me like on turn 2, more or less. And also I do think I misplayed arguably. Because I went first, I had the choice between going into Extreme or Zubat. I went into Extreme because like even if I drew a subpar board, I in theory could still kill him because I got the 2 Excel Circles, drew 2 cards. I had Spiral Breaker and Gulsachi, so I was like, I can still do like a half board, swing through his stuff, and it was okay, but it almost could have won me the game had triggers also been flipped, which I was not flipping triggers, but it is what it is. We both played that game very well. Arguably, again, I should have gone into Zubat because even though it wouldn't have gotten me the 2 Excels, it would have shrunk his rearguard numbers very well, going from like 49s to 29s. So there's that. Yeah, no, that was a very close game, despite the fact I arguably misplayed. But with me not drawing anything, but I can't like I lost because I didn't draw anything. Like again, very close game. I did like that game a lot. Round 2, I put against MLB. Which this is upsetting to me. I won the dice roll but lost the match. Basically how it was that I couldn't kill him on Vic 10. He rode MLB. They just punched him, like dumped all his force markers on his Vanguard. So, well, no, 1 force marker on side, 2 force markers on Van, and I'm like, okay. I know he has possibly the Vanguard in hand, but there was only 3 swings that turn in particular. I couldn't eat all 3 swings, so I figured my plan was, because the Vanguard was going to be so big anyways, eat the Van. I'm at 2 damage, by the way. Eat the Vanguard. I can either... And then I can eat the Blaster Blade of the Vanguard, go up to 5, guard the rear guard Majesty Lord Blaster, and then I just blow him up next turn. Because I knew his hand wasn't like real at that point after he was going into this turn, because I like blowed a lot of his hand despite poking through it. And I only lost if he flipped 2 crit, and I didn't flip any heals. Because I was also like... he guarded a lot of it. But like I said, so his hand was small. I was at 2 damage to match his, I was at 2 damage to his 3. So basically, any heal or OT got me out of it, and I had all my heals in my deck at that. Or no, I think I had 1 heal in my hand, and I had like drawn like I drove like a few blanks, no PGs in hand. He flips a 2 crit, and so literally it was like if I saw 1 heal or he saw 1 crit, I would have been fine. I would have blown him out next turn. But you know what? It is what it is. And this is kind of what that deck does. Round 3 was my first win of the day. My opponent did not show up, so no comments on round 3. Round 4, I played against Genesis Quintuplets. I won the dice roll. I won the match. My opponent was not real. He never rode a past grade 0. Not even kidding. He did not even ride to grade 1 because he did not see the crest generator that deck has. I don't know what Quince does, but yeah, he like I said, my opponent was not real. He doesn't do anything. Round 5, I played against Steam Maiden. So finally, I'm 2-2 at this point, and I'm like, all right, there's still a chance for me to top, technically speaking, because as long as you were X2. But she said, hey, stay still, we'll grab you. But yeah, round 5 was against Steam Maiden. I lost the dice roll, but I won the match. Basically, I hit a 2 defensive heals early in the game, and while that helped a lot, it definitely would not have been like the deciding factor, as I had big defensive pieces like the OT I drew turn 1, along with my Guardian ticket. So I definitely had ways to still cover for myself, but I was fine. Again, it was a very good game. We had a lot of back and forths on that. I don't remember exactly what turn it was that I won on it, but I was just able to push through, and I let myself like go to high damage, and then I could just blow him up. And then round 6 was Musketeers. I lost the dice roll, lost the match. There were 2 points that I misplayed. Basically, the first point was I misplayed with my G Guardians, where I could double G Guard. That's what these are my gifts. I was at 5 damage, but only 1 counterblasted. So I guess just to kind of show. Obviously, like, it wasn't like this exact damage, but just to show what could have happened. I misplayed where I went into this, which certainly this wasn't a misplay, but I only counterblasted 3, so then I could draw 2 cards and continue my play. I should have actually counterblasted the extra one just for the extra shield, even though I didn't need it, so I could Unior, get 2 soul, countercharge 2. I would have had more CB to work with at that point, and then I would have been able to end the game at a sooner point. But that, obviously, you know, didn't do that. So, okay, where else did we mess up? The other point I messed up was on my kill turn, where my board was Zubat, Bolshachi, some irrelevant booster. I don't think it was I think it was like a ration, maybe? And I called and Gunston. I'm at this point I have like no cards left on my deck. I have like 1 card left or something like that. Like, not enough to swing a Vanguard, like, actually. Which is where I mentioned that I went to Drager. I called Golsachi off the skill, and gave the skill to Golsachi, and then I called the Gunston. When I had a different card in my hand that I should have called, because I had a Gambaru gun. So literally, had I done this instead, I would have been able to go, like, swing skill, restand. Well, I guess either way I should have done it with a Gambaru gun and swing and then do it like that. Regardless, I misplayed on what I called what I give the skill to. So I ultimately just punted that game. It was winnable. I don't know if my opponent could have guarded because I didn't see their hand after the game. They had a couple cards in it. I don't know how real their hand at that point was. And then because I also, I guess, can mention it, where the Merciless came up that I mentioned was the really interesting situation. Because that was this game, actually. I remember this situation really well, too. I am on this board. I don't remember if it was Guns then, or if it was like something else, but I had a booster. I think it was Break Pass, actually. I did not use Zubat's skill, so I'll get the extra swing, but they're under their Progenitor Dragon, which basically says if they would die once, they don't die, but they get their 6 kind of loss of damage. So my goal at this point is to like just try and cheese it without having to discard too much. So I swing Van, swing here, or well, Soul Blast out, I forget what was the boost here, restand this, restand the Merciless, and then I swing again. And it's like, as long as I flipped 1 crit, I was guaranteed the win at that exact moment. I did not flip the crit on either swing. I really couldn't afford to commit much more, because I was like, I need to live the next turn. And I knew that like another fall turn would have gotten me the game, but alas, it did not, and then that was the game that knocked me out of the event. Again, that game was super back and forth. I lost because I died out, which I think is so hilarious that deck got against a deck like Musketeer, but yeah, that was my Rosemont experience. Overall, I had a wonderful time. I actually think that Premium was, if you're not playing the dumb loop decks, I think Premium is right now at its most enjoyable. I think the fact that like every deck feels like it can do what it wants to do, but at the same time decks are defensive enough to live what other decks want to do, I think is really balanced. And I enjoyed myself. I hope that they continue to keep this format alive. This is the most enjoyable format I've played in a while. I've had some missed attendances with Rosemont and all that, between team leagues and all that. We had an incident earlier in the year with my team where one had a family member pass away. We couldn't find a replacement, so my other teammate and I were like, let's just skip it this year. Plus, it was Lyrical Club anyways for day 2, so it's not like we were excited about going. You know, spoilers, we actually all had Lyrical decks that we all liked, at least to some degree. I was going to be on Flame in that event, but yeah. I didn't really like jam other games on that, but I felt pretty good about this list. Technically, I guess I lost myself, realistically. And then as for the pickups, like I said, I picked this up at the event. My promos weren't great. I picked up the Progenitor, or not the Progenitor, the Paldio Grade 2 of the Ride Line for my day 1 promo, and then which I sold off venue grounds. For the record, Bushy, I did not sell it at the venue. I sold it off venue grounds to somebody, and then I pulled the Dark States draw trigger. So I at least had one good promo. I got the Hikari Energy Free Fight for day 1, just because like whatever, I might as well play a free fight. And then,
alright, it's
oh
over.
my god!
Until next time!
Eclipse ad with a rate of 8. Oh my god, thank you so much. Hello everyone, my name is Iblis. We're kind of wrapping up at this point. We've been yapping a little bit about what Rosemont was like. But hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Iblis. I'm a variety streamer. Premium? Yeah, we were yapping about premium. We tapped about both standard and premium. Ah, okay, so you were also talking about Vanguard. I see you. Yeah, I talk about this game every once in a while, mostly with events and such. But yeah, we totally just went over the victory list. But nah, thank you so much for the raid, my dude. How was your stream? We're definitely wrapping up at this point, but I hope everyone's doing well tonight. Oh my god, I was not expecting a raid, especially at this time. Victor, yeah, I played Victor for Rosemont. I'll flash through the list real quick, I guess. Like Victor or Shout? No, actual Victor, like real Victor. We don't play that Shout loop shit. No, I'll flash through it, like I said, real quick. For the Raiders, I'll go through it. 3-1. Then Light Ray, Zubat. I played too many loops. I didn't play any loops, thankfully. We start with Luigi Mission, the start variety, and then transition to Vanguard for the last half of the night. Ah, okay. Now, I kind of, like, I don't have, like, the most amount of time. But, I figured this is just, like, a fun kind of thing to do. Plus, I want to get this out before, I leave for a trip next week. So I'm kind of just, like, shoehorning the stream in as much as I can. And then yeah. I hate shout loop shit. We don't fuck with that shit. Then the 2 lineup. This card is MVP. Fucking love this card. Obviously, if chat has questions about the list, feel free to hit me up. I can answer. And then the grade 1 lineup was pretty good. I liked it. And then I'll go over this here real quick. Brand rotate because the card's done. And then, yeah, just kind of, like I said, flashing through it real quick. And then, shit, I hate the fact that my cord is in the damn way. Man, did you play, were you at Rosemont by chance, Eclipse, or did you just, like, play Vanguard by itself? Or, like, well, what brought you into the category tonight, I guess, if I may ask? Like, were you just yapping about Rosemont yourself, or, like, a different event, or... That's covered by chat. Yeah, this is the list overall. Like I said, quickly. We're just playing games, TVH. Ah, okay, I get you. That's fair. No, like I said, I wanted to recap my Rosemont experience and like kind of talk about how both standard and premium were. Where I scrubbed out a standard variants. What? Am I gonna pass it for my first of the season? Ah, okay. These are not. The stream figures on Monday, but schedule change we did on Tuesday. No. Oh, fair enough then. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't have like the most consistent schedule. But I usually post my schedule on social. But I'm down for games at some point if you ever wanna do that. Next one is maybe delete the possibly depending on how the cards align. Yeah, I kind of want to go to Duluth. Part of me wants to do it, but I'm also like, Standard's so ass, dude. Like, I was talking about it earlier, I fucking hate Standard right now. The Standard format just feels like, do I see my pieces? No, I lose. Do my opponents see their pieces? I die. Granted, I was also on Hardluru, but I was like the most unlucky person. I kept whiffing toy searches like mad. Like, it was ridiculous how... Oh, sorry, I didn't fucking show on camera. Jesus Christ, me. Yeah, I was on this shit. I'm usually like... I obviously, like, I think it's like a kind of real luck, but... I'm gonna hit Jalal or Minerva. See, I feel like... And I had a talk with my buddy Levi Patterson. If you're in the Vanguard community, you probably know who that is. Like, very phenomenal player. But we were talking about it, and at least in his words, and I kind of agree with it after playing the format a little bit more. Where he's like, you can top with Heart Luru or Minerva, but if you want to win, you're better off probably playing buff Sagra or Virgilla. And I think Virgilla is just dumb. I mean, I kind of hate this format though, because it just feels like, again, like if Virgilla sees pieces, it just beats everything. But I also can't comment because I barely, like, realistically tested against meta decks. And Stash Shun was like the most quote-unquote real thing I tested against, because like, well, it's a cheap-ish deck. I expected people to play it. Nobody was playing that shit. Nobody was playing that shit. But yeah. I focused a little bit more on premium, which I had a good run, realistically, despite only going 3-3, but to be fair, when you play against world competitors round 1 both days, that tends to happen, so not much you can do in that sense. I acknowledge that Variance was not with me this weekend. Also, did it stop my music? Okay, there we go. But, I don't know if I'm going to hit up any more events, this season or not, between the fact that I want to travel a decent bit next year, among a few other things. It's not impossible, but I'll have to just kind of see. A lot of it's going to determine like how this works. Goes. Yeah, I got Fenrir, Angel, Geezer, Shout, or Mill Loop. Jesus. Actually, no fun allowed. Like, there's actually enough fun allowed man in chat. Play my locals. I mean, fair, but still. Everyone from diverse to all bugs and speedy. Okay, you know what? In that case, I can understand. No, my locals has also been getting very quiet with the game lately, which has been kind of hurting my motivation to play a bit. Like, one of the last few of us like sold out like his prize cards to Robbie Cole, I guess, for people who may know the name. So he's just like, I'm getting out of this. I'm getting more into Pokemon, which I don't blame him for. But, you know, it is what it is. I get it. The game has a lot of frustrating points at the moment. Yeah, also, I guess because I was technically getting into this before the raid. This is technically all the pickups I got this weekend. Not a lot, actually. I got the Hikari from my free fight pack. My cousin got the Impaldio starter, which I thought was funny when I got the 2, but I did sell my 2 again off the grounds. Yeah, I picked up these a lot because I just like Bermuda. Not, you know, the lolly side of it, but I think, you know what, this card's cool. And I've always wanted, like, these blue Liesel-Lots. I think this card is very gorgeous looking. And I don't have the money for the hierarchy one. But nah, like I said, a very fun weekend. I got to meet a bunch of people I had never met before. You know, like, I actually get to have dinner with, like, Outer Orange, where they were never done before. I got my LSP Pawns and BSF Philly. Oh, the gorgeousness. Now, like, I have, like, pretty stuff, but, like, you can't invest, like, into everything being pretty all the time, but I usually invest into, usually either Premium Blaster, or, I guess, Majesty Lord Blaster, or, Victor, but Standard, I don't have, like, a desire to invest as much, and, like, you know, Standard's also kind of expensive if you want to do that. Plus, with life, with how it's been, I've also been, like, kind of backing out a little bit. I'm not quitting the game, like I said, but I'm at the point right now where it's like, I probably won't be playing as much for a while, so it's at the point where it's like, I should just sell some of my stuff. So, kind of just reevaluating the course of things right now. But again, I had a wonderful BCS realistically. It was nice to meet people. Dinner with Outer Orange was fun. And just had a good time. I think that if you're playing Premium outside the loop decks, the really dumb stuff, it's a lot of fun. If you're playing Standard, it's rough. It's really rough. That's the best way I can put it. I don't like Standard at the moment, but again, that's a me thing. And you know what? If Standard's not a me format, I completely understand that. But Premium was definitely something I enjoyed. I hope Bushi decides not to axe this format. I hope they realize that people want this format to continue. I know that they're doing Premium for some events in Japan. And I hope that those events continue to cap out like they have in the past. I hope we continue to see a high attendance for Premium. I know attendance just at Rosemont in general was down this year, like I kind of talked about earlier, where Standard had like an almost 200-person dip, while Premium had like a roughly 100-person dip. But again, I also know there's probably like a few things with One Piece, political climate in Illinois at the moment, English players not having the best conference from the last product presentation. A few things, you know, but Miko was like, bring my girl Ishikishima back before they axe me. I don't want the axe, obviously. Yeah, no, I 100% get you. Like, I don't want them to axe this format. I think this format's wonderful. Like, this, I admit, I don't know how much I would continue to play Vanguard if they axe Premium and only leave Standard, but I think at that point, it equally is going to be kind of, not like quite like an RBET situation, but like, I think the community will have to step up a bit more like for Premium to continue to prosper, depending on how it goes after the season. So, if this season is, in theory, the final Premium season, I wanted to... This game sucks! Oh, mental. Listen, Standard sucks. I agree with you. Standard fucking sucks. But I think Premium, if you're playing outside the loop shit, is a great time. Like this deck, garbage. Standard, garbage. Also, I realized I'm fucking dead again. No, this deck sucks. I hate this deck. I'm selling Heart Liru as soon as I'm back from Florida. I played inside events and remember when heal front blue OT crit. Well, no, I mean, if you want frustrating, I can give you frustrating, because I remember, like, I played, like, the best shit in the mirror, which I know I talked about this earlier, but obviously, like, this is before you guys all came in, where I left my opponent at my opponent was at 2 damage, basically. And this is like what their board looked like. And obviously I'm making up the damage just to simulate it. But they CB'd for Flavi, and I'm like, oh, you messed up. So I swung at the sides, denied them the CB. They write up the Heart Liru, and it's like, alright, well you don't have the CB for Nut Crumbs. But it didn't matter because they drew 2 orders anyways. So I was like, well, what's the point of me playing around you being able to play the game if you just draw the cards? Like, you play the game. Like, it felt so bad. Like, the one time that drawing 2 orders just worked out for the guy, and then he OTs me at 2 in the same game. And I'm like, alright, I'm not supposed to play this game. Standard sucks. No, I feel it's really bad when you just, like, get dumpstered on standard. I hate it. Like, I feel like triggers just, like, are, like, unnecessarily more impactful in standard than they should be compared to premium. Like, I love the game, but holy shit, it feels really bad. No, like I said, I had fun, like, with premium. Going forward, too, in standard was not my time. I didn't get how they balanced premium for many loops. I saw an interesting theory that I don't know how I feel about it, but it was like, it was thought-provoking where someone was like, what if everything was a hard once per turn, or the cards that force your, like, this is more so for the deck out loops, or it's like, where your opponent, like, has to draw cards, make it optional for the opponent. I think that would be interesting. Like, so Shout, like, lets your opponent like, choose if they want to do the game or not. Equally, I feel like you have to just kind of ban Shout. I don't know enough about the Alden draw loop to comment on that. That doesn't solve for Fenrir and Flinger. Yeah, I mean, obviously that was just specifically for the draw loops, but Shout absolutely should be banned. Yeah, as much as I don't want to say it, because I think Shout, like, is an interesting card for, like, certain Nova builds, because I liked it when, what is it, like, when Bermuda's good, I actually like playing Shout, but, you know, I'm willing to let that go. Like, Shout, Fenrir, Scare Deck, Mag, Alden Mill, Hell 108. Spike, I cannot tell you how you balance spikes aside from just banning Hell Hard 8. I do not know that clan at all. Ezel, I don't know, just maybe choice restrict between, I get, like, what, probably choice restrict between, like, Dindrain and the GBA. I don't know as much about that. Alden I get comment about. I just hate Fenrir. I say we ban every Fenrir card. Can we just ban Fenrir? Like, every Fenrir in the game? Did you blue scared of Flinger? Alright, the Grand Blue ones. Well, Flinger realistically probably could also go. Flinger's kind of dumb. I don't know, like, what you hit in Scare Deck outside maybe I guess Scare Deck. Like, I haven't seen that deck in action. Because I also don't have any Grand Blue players in my locals, and I don't have the stuff to, like, build it to learn what it does. Because I feel like if it's, like, just, like, Grand Blue with the Magnolia cards, it's fine, but obviously there's a factor I am missing in that. So I guess I can move this just because we're yapping at this point. Well, this shit can go in the corner. Fuck standard. Standard can go in the corner and just sit there. Premium can sit a little bit more in the frame. But I think, like, again, if you play, like, non-loop premium, it's such a fun time right now. If you play, like, the loop decks, it's such an ass time. Like, I considered Shout loop for this BCS, but I was like, I want to actually play the game. Which is also how it was for a lot of people at Rosemont, right? Like, a lot of people just, like, played actual decks. And not, like, bullshit decks. Like, I know Ghidorah won. Ty Smith got third with Narukami, as he tends to. I saw, like, Naru still feels overtuned if it's not loops. Yeah, a little bit. I would agree with that. Naru still feels really good. I don't know, like, what you... Like, because it's also, like, hard to, like, we hit Naru without knowing what else we hit, right? Because, like, I don't want to, like, just, like, no, Naru, you can't play the game, but I don't know what's best to, like, balance that deck in the context where it's, like, there's other problems with premium right now that I feel like need to address first. And again, it's at the level where it's, like, where do you draw the line between hitting what's the best and then hitting what could be the best after, right? Again, that's, like, very much up for debate, but... Honestly, I played a non-OT tournament, they banned Valencia, and Shout and everything was fun. Oh, that sounds like a good time. I could probably, like, get behind that realistically. Like, again, I like Premium is just good. Like I had fun playing against Teammate, I had fun playing against Musketeer. I feel like Premium is just good where it's like every deck can do its bullshit, but every deck can also live against the bullshit and like you have like counterplay. But they aren't going to ban OT, which makes them kind of unfortunate. Yeah, it feels like they just don't want to do anything for Premium, I think is the problem. Like they just are like, nah, Premium is a format they just don't want to care about. Which is unfortunate. Like, it's such a good format, and like, the fact that people are still playing it, where we haven't had support for like, what, 2 years? It's kind of wild. And the fact that like, it was also like not... I also want to note... JP side P is on the up. Look, super bad. Yeah, I actually was talking about that at the very start of the stream. Let me transition to that real quick. Hold on. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Whoopsie. There we go. Yeah, so like Kai was talking about it. Where it's like Rosemont numbers were down. I feel like there's a few factors for this. But like, you know, obviously like, to talk about where it's like, hey, we went from like 481 to 309 in standard, and then 313 to 181 in premium, which technically that's like a roughly, not exactly, these aren't like approximations, not like perfect, but like a roughly 200 dip in standard and a roughly 100 dip in premium. Again, I feel like there's a few factors for this. Yeah, I gave him those numbers. Oh, fair enough. But like, I feel like there's a couple factors for it, both within the game and not within the game. I also didn't know there was a Peoria One Piece event, so that probably was I want to say one of the bigger factors to it. But there was this. There was like the fact that I think the game in the West is kind of down right now between how expensive the game is and how like the last like conference that they did for the English side was not that great. Like I felt very dismissed as like an English player getting this last ban list as late as we did, and it's like, oh yeah, this set is like very power creepy. That's kind of me though. Like, but I remember just playing against Arxaria with Heart Luru, and I was like, what do you mean these decks were only 2 sets apart? There's this big of a gap between the two. There was also technically a non-in-game reason where I feel the political climate is not attracting people to Illinois. Again, not a political stream, but I feel that obviously if you know what's going on right now, some people are going to stay away. I think that my stance on that is kind of clear if you've been around the stream long enough, but I just want to put that out. That's not exactly the most welcoming environment at the moment, but there's that. And I feel like, I don't know, it's just like kind of a rough point, but with the game in general, but, you know, this is the balance that we do. I think there's no excuse for them to be like, once we get Vincent with buddy, we killed it. Also know that Europe as a region has one event. I didn't know Europe only had one event. But no, it is very much a case where it's like, it depends on how, like, Japan and what they more or less do with it, right? Like, they're going to be, like, a very big factor, where it's like, if they're having more events, and, like, the events show interest, there is hope for the format, right? I know, Derek Dow, I think is who it was, like, spoke to one of the, Asian heads of the, I think it's the Chinese or Korean, like, part of the game, where he has like a very big say in the company, and like talked about how, hey, a lot of Western players like premium, and he was unaware of that, so he's apparently going to be talking to Bushi about it. I don't know, like, that's insider information. I don't know the full extent of that or how that went. I definitely have some spoilers, chat. I definitely have some insider information within the company of Bushiroad. I can't say everything, but Kelvin and Kai. Okay, yeah, Kelvin and Kai. Well, Derek. Why not, like, because he was in, Austria, but again, I don't know how like the full information relaying works. Again, I have contact with some of WCC, not all of WCC, but fair. But regardless, like, you know, I'm obviously hopeful. I'm trying not to be a Debbie Downer. I want to believe this format will continue to exist. I want to continue to believe the game will do well. But if it's only standard, I don't know how much I'm going to be playing. Oh wait, Albert! I didn't know that was. Is this your Twitch? Shit, I didn't know. I never knew this was your Twitch account. Shit, my bad. Oh, my bad. I'm permanently in a mental hospital. Okay. I did not know that. Listen, I just remember the vague detail about it. I thought it was Derek. My bad. But you know what? Got it. You know what? Hold on. Off the... There we go. There you go, Albert. You get VIP on the channel now. But yeah, that's kind of just my overall thoughts on it. Like I said, I had a fun time with it, but there were my frustrations. I hope this format continues to exist, but I'm gonna, just because I know I won't be playing as many events, I'll probably be backing out of some cards at the very least. Probably gonna sell Heart Liru. I'll probably just keep Thagria and Odium for standard for the time being. Depending on when Spring Fest or Summer Fest is, I guess I want to say Spring Fest every single time because it's BSF. I'll figure it out then, depending. And then Premium will just, I'll decide what I'm going to keep, what I'm going to get rid of. I'll probably, I don't know. Just this I think depending on how, if Premium lives to next, if Premium happens next year, I think we're going to be fine. Not having events for basically a full year is kind of, it is wild and it feels like long. In a way, right? Just like, oh yeah, I'm just done. Like, because like Summerfest, like for Rosemont was May, if I remember right. At least the last time I remember checking the schedule. So it's like, you know, I'm done with October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Like that's 7 months without an event, and I'm just done. Like again, if I want to go to Duluth in January, that's an option. But I equally don't know how much I'm going to be doing that. Or if I want to do that. On the Pokemon side, we always have events. So that's kind of the opposite problem, where it's like obviously I'm not going back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, fuck going back to Yu-Gi-Oh! But like, I like how Yu-Gi-Oh! Had events here and there, and that was arguably better, also because heavily it was cheaper to get to events. You know, Pokemon's events, like, add up. This is, like, what, $80 roughly for entry? That's not including travel and all that. It's like, Pokemon adds up. I don't know, I will be playing the Pokemon Regional Indie, next year? Should be good at the game. I need to unrust. I definitely need to unrust. But we'll probably once we know what reg Pokemon is in, I might start practicing like on stream. I think that could be fun. Like just kind of like, and like also for my own for my own sake, like to be able to look back and then be like, alright, this is what I did wrong, this is what I can do. I don't know. There's things I want to do, but it's also like, how do I manage all this? But no, I will definitely do Pokemon Indie. Imagine you hit the cash. I mean, dude, if I hit it, oh my god. But equally, I feel like that's also setting my bar high, especially for like a first VGC event, right? Like, it'd be cool, don't get me wrong, I would be hyped as hell for it. But, I don't know, I'm also trying to, like, keep myself, like, low on a lot of this. But, I think this, like I said, everything's, like, we're figuring things out. We'll get stuff done one way or another, but I just don't know how much I can realistically afford to do, because I want to go to Fan Fest for 14, for Final Fantasy, next year if I can. I don't know if that's realistic or not. I want to review day 2. You can get like a decent amount of packs you can always spawn off. That's true. Like, I also just don't know how well I would be, like, or how likely I would be to day 2. Because again, I just haven't been on Pokemon as of late, but I feel like that's kind of just like that. There's stuff I had to figure out. I've had the interest in Pokemon. I equally need to get the DLCs at some point, but that's not for here nor there. I mean, everything just happens for a reason. My life was not in a straight box. I remember you saying that before, yeah. Mega format, that's true, yeah. Mega format I think will be really fun. It's also just dependent on like how much like work wants to give me Goodbye Terra. I feel like we'll see Terra again with Champions, but it's probably just not gonna be for a while. Like if in theory we can like just alternate mechanics, I think that would be a really good way to do it. I think that would be chill. I think that's like a good way to do it because like Champions kind of like gives us that ability to, whereas you have like this one central hub game where it's like, hey, I want to play with like Megas in this format, or it's like, hey, we're gonna do like the Gigantamax right now. I'm wondering what the final format of Scarlet Violet will be. Right now they're running a poll. I'm curious what the community ends up going with for a final format. I would be excited to see that. I think this would add like there have been some cool formats within here. Like I really wanted to play like with I forget what reg it was, but it was like the Tornadus Regidrago team. I thought that format was super cool. Reg C, that's ahead right now? Ah, okay. I think it was Reg F. I think I still have that team. Hold on. Or at least the skeleton of it. That Reg was... Oh no, it was Reg D, apparently. It was the team that I had it for. I don't know, I would adapt to whatever format it was, which I would be excited just to like play in an actual event. Yeah, we'll do some Pokemon coverage, probably like once more of that for Indianapolis gets announced, and I can start like putting a team together. I'll probably stream some games between like Showdown or on Ladder and figure it all out. But anyways, I feel like I'm kind of straying from the Vanguard talk, but I feel like I've also kind of said everything that needs to be said. But I don't know. I guess like to kind of wrap it up. I'm also like in a weird spot with card games right now where it's like there's not much to do for me in my case right now. Where it's like because I was kind of thinking about it right where I went to oh, that's a bot. Hold on, let me get this bot real quick. There we go. Also, was it just made a day one stink really bad? I can't comment because I can't smell. That's I cannot comment at all because I do not have the ability to smell. I'll take your word for it, but I didn't feel anything, so it wasn't like bad in my case, I guess. I guess I'm like indirect, like it's not also bad. I guess I don't have events for a while because like it's not gonna be bad to just wrap up for the holiday season because it's like after I go to Florida at the end of this week, I leave for a week, obviously. We try and finish up our Blue Mage stuff in 14, which hopefully we manage to do that sooner rather than later, because we're talking about just breaking for December. Work will probably hit me big in November, and then a little bit in December, but probably not as bad, depending on how busy we get with schools. And then holiday season, that's gonna eat people's time and all that. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I know this month is gonna be kind of light for streaming. Again, there's only like 2 streams I have this week, maybe a third. It just depends on what my time availability is, but I think I'm just kind of talking in circles at this point. Yeah, like I said, premium fun, standard stinky. I'm just gonna be working on gradually offing stuff and then just liquidating for the worst, hoping it's not actually the case, and if I need to repick stuff up or want to repick stuff up, you know what, I always can. I'll hold on to some stuff that's like really important to me, but yeah. You going to Universal when you do Florida? We are hitting up Nintendo at the very least. I think we're just doing 1 day is the plan. And the reason we're only doing 1 day is just because like we looked on the website, and like we also have like indirect connections to a staff discount, but it was still like a lot of money. Like it was like the fact that it was like I think a 3-day pass is what we were originally considering was more than a hotel room at Rosemont. I was like, you know what? Maybe we just do 1 day and we just do Nintendo, because that's really like why we were going, for like our excuse to go. Let's just hit up Nintendo, and that's like $100, so that like wasn't as bad. But and again, like we were just like, you know, we can also hit up other parks as well while we're there. Nintendo's fire. Yeah, no, I really want to go check it out, especially because like, you know, I am the Nintendo fan. Like if it's not obvious, I am the Nintendo fan. Yeah, we're kind of figuring out what we all want to do, but we're just like playing it day by day. I might hit it when I go to Orlando Regionals. I hope if you do, you have a great time. I will let you know how it is when I go, at least next week, but I will probably be, like, I might be a little bit of an Instagram girly while I'm there, aka a Twitter girly, but you know, because I keep forgetting to post on my... Which, speaking of, I do actually have an Endless Star Evan Instagram, if you want to check that out. I am slowly learning the platform. Keyword slowly. It is not a platform I use that often, but I'm trying. Or if you want to just follow me on a different platform, you are more than welcome to. Or if you just want to tell me to go fuck myself, that's also fine. I understand. Yeah, I do think I'm going to wrap up for the night because it is approaching midnight and it is a work week for basically everybody. But we'll be back tomorrow with a Waria, which for people who don't know what that game is, if you saw Helltaker, it's made by the same team. I clicked the link, getting kicked me off the stream. It should it? Unless you're on mobile, because I open it and it just opens up a different tab. I'll have to look into that, I guess. That shouldn't be the case. Oh, that would do it then, yeah. No, I know it does on a mobile. There's really not much I can do about it for your phone people. I apologize for that, but yeah. Again, like if you want to check it out after the stream, I completely understand. But it's just basically like a link to like every social I have from like content creator stuff. I'll eventually also make like individual commands for all this, but that's a future project kind of deal. But I do think it's probably time just to call it. Like I said, it's almost midnight, and we've been yapping at this point. But yeah, thank you again very much to Eclipse for the raid. I do appreciate it, and everybody who came in from the raid. But with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for the tonight, I think. I've kind of just talked myself in circles at this point. Thank you guys very much for watching tonight's stream. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you didn't have it already, please hit the follow button. It really helps me out a lot more than you guys know. If you want to financially support me, the stream, all the goodies, maybe you want to see some DK Bonanza this December, please consider subbing, gifting a sub, donating. I understand money's tight for a lot of people, so please don't spend what you don't have. Focus on your own lives first. Goodbye to those of you who are heading out, but please stick around for the raid if you can. After that, you're fine to go. Show some love to a homie. If you want to hop in the Discord for future stream announcements, there you go. There's a link to that Discord for you. Don't forget to follow me on socials, but I plugged that just a moment ago. We're gonna raid the homie. Actually, is anyone else randomly streaming in Vanguard? Probably not. I'd be very surprised. Yeah, we're the only person in this category right now. Okay. But we're gonna go ahead and raid the homie Nick. And I think it's funny that we're going from talking about Vanguard to GX Tag Force, but you know what? This dude's cool. I love this dude. I'm eventually gonna call up with this guy like for real. And that's it for now. Thank you all very much. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Goodbye, friends.